Aloha and shalom. We're here for the new moon activation. And I'm just getting set up right now while everybody tunes in. Make sure you have some water. Remember, we're all channeling this together, so you want to be the best vessel you can be. You want to be hydrated, first and foremost. While I'm shuffling, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Where in the world are you? I'm tuning in from Sedona, Arizona. And we had some rain today. We haven't had rain in a long time in this desert, and it's just feeling really beautiful outside, and it's smelling really beautiful. Even inside, I could smell the rain coming. It's just gorgeous in the desert right now. Something about rain in the desert. It's just like an oasis in the hot, hot heat. All right, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Hello, Australia. Hello, Phoenix. Hello, New Zealand. Hello, New York. I know where you are, George. And feel free to share this video now while we're live with any family or friends who could use an uplifting message right now, could use some inspiration right now. Maybe you have a favorite group on Facebook. Hello, Maine. Hello, Missouri. If you have a favorite group on Facebook you want to share while we're live, go ahead, get everybody in the portal now, or feel free to share at the very end when we're done. If you have somebody who's not on Facebook you'd like to share it with, it will be on Instagram and YouTube as usual. Rebecca Magic on there. We have another Maine. Hello. Another Arizona. Checking in. I'm getting to know some of you. So it's the new moon, meaning it's just a new beginning. We're entering a new cycle right now. You may have been feeling the energies for the past few days. It's, time is not linear, so it's not just this moment that we're experiencing this energy. We start to experience it a little before, and we still experience it a little afterwards. So this message will apply for the whole week. Remember, when we're shuffling the deck is you. Each card is a different aspect of you. You could also see it as the collective consciousness. Each card is a different aspect of that. And when we shuffle, we're just waking up all the parts, saying hello to all the parts, and welcoming them all here to this present moment. And then we're going to shuffle the Hebrew deck. It looks like this. For those of you who are new to the activation portal, welcome. To those of you who are returning, welcome back. Hey, Arizona. Hey, Idaho. Whew. Feeling really shaky today. Anyone else? Hello, Georgia in the house. Okay. Feels good. Feels ready. Thank you in advance, Archetypes Faces of the One, for this message that's about to come through. Which means thank you, thank me, thank we, thank one. Just uniting our energies right here and now. Everyone who's here, present, live, and everyone who's going to watch this video later, even if it's a year from now or years from now, it will still be perfectly relevant. Because these messages come to us from a place outside of time and space, making their truths multidimensionally and universally applicable. So thank you again in advance for this message. The current challenge of the week. Something we can leave behind, or rather has been a stepping stone for what we're now coming into. And then, as usual, we'll pull a Hebrew card for the ally. Page of Cups is the current challenge. So Page of Cups, this looks like It's a time for cups, right? Water, emotions, feelings. It's a page, so it's about a new way of connecting to what we're feeling, a new way of connecting to and expressing our emotions, a new way of receiving and integrating the feelings of others. So just in general, being able to experience the dimension of emotions and feeling from a fresh perspective. And I'm feeling really specifically like this archetype is telling us this week to look for where we may be immature in this way. Look to where we may not have been humble enough. Where can we deepen our humility in our emotional experiences with self and with each other? So where some things we can look at are, where have we not been expressing our emotions, first of all? And then if we have been expressing, how have we been expressing? Have we been expressing our emotions appropriately? Have we been more reactive than responsive with our feelings in regard to whatever situations we're going through? And you're going to see this theme everywhere, because as in one dimension, so in all. But it would be wise to start with the highly emotional situations in your life right now. Where are you feeling the most emotional? Go straight to that. Go straight into the feelings. You have to feel to then be able to do something with those feelings, to be able to get the lesson from those feelings. But you have to feel to heal, right? So we're being asked to first start there. Where are we the most emotionally triggered? Where are our emotions really feeling strongly right now? And how can we fully feel them, go deep into them so that we can glean the lesson from it and then do something with that awareness? How can we go straight into those emotional situations we've been experiencing and develop a new level of maturity in how we are interpreting what we're feeling, how we're feeling what we're feeling, how we're interpreting what we're feeling, and then how we are creating and then executing a plan based on what we are being shown in those moments. So I'm very clearly getting this same message over and over, that right now we're experiencing an opportunity to mature in the way that we have been handling our current emotional situations. And remember, we're getting this download. We're receiving this activation so that this light that we create from it will last forever, because the light that comes from embodying these lessons that we're receiving from the archetypes is a light that is eternal, goes on forever. So we are being reminded right now that we're simply using our current material circumstances as a vehicle for eternal transformation. So we don't need to become too attached with the material details, but we do need to be fully immersed in them in order to make the most of this experience. So if we can take this lesson, this advice from the archetypes, and apply it to our current situations, our current emotional, in particular, situations, then we will carry that new level of maturity and that new level of humility and that new level of whatever virtues we deepen through this experience. We will carry that light with us into all of our future situations. And we will affect one another, we'll affect our children and our children's children by doing this work. So we have to remember that's how profound this work is. What we do right now has little to do with the material circumstances, but it has everything to do with the light that we can create of those circumstances. So where have you been emotional? Go straight to that situation and ask yourself, how would I like to deal with all of my emotional situations moving forward? How can I deepen emotional mastery right now? How can I not lose myself in the feelings and react and say mean things? selective hearing, right? Because we're upset, causes miscommunication and further disruption. And then we're even more lost in the situation. So how can we pull ourselves out of it and go back into that emotional situation when we're ready and prepared to do the work, to handle it with the most grace and the most humility? And then we have the Four of Wands. The Four of Wands. And fours are about foundation, structure, stability. And it's wands, so it's the suit of spirit and fire. We can come away from this idea of perfection and needing to create something stable for our future. And I know this is relative to all of us because we're living in a time where the future is so mysterious for all of us. And the pressure is real to get it perfect, to get this life thing perfect, to create a future, to create that solid foundation. But we don't need to worry so much about that right now because we're never going to get there. We're never even going to get there if we don't do this work. If we don't learn how to manage our emotions, if we don't learn, and remember, emotions are water, are feminine, associated with the mother, the great mother who lives in all of us and within all of creation. So how we deal with our emotions and the emotions of one another is how we deal with our feminine archetype, the feminine archetype within ourselves, within one another, and within all of nature. See, we forget, we isolate ourselves in our awareness, and we begin to believe that we're alone in this. We begin to believe that when we're dealing with our emotions, it's just our little emotions from, Rebecca's little lifetime, this life. But it's so much more than just this character that you are, this avatar right now. What our emotions and our emotional experiences represent is so great, is so profound. So the more we can learn to consciously, appropriately, positively, effectively, proactively tune into what we're feeling and then do something with it that's for the highest good of all, the more we will be able to tune into our intuition, to tune into nature, to tune into each other's hearts. It starts with you and your own emotional process, but you must remember what that represents. You are a microcosm of the macrocosm. So everything that involves you involves the whole, involves each other, all of us, all of life, all of creation. So forget about perfection. That foundation will be rickety. It will fall. It will be weak. It will be brittle. It will crack and crumble if we don't even know how to work with our own feelings and our own emotions. See, if we don't work with ourselves, we'll end up failing ourselves. We'll end up hurting our own hearts, which is a part of the one heart. It's connected to all. We hurt all. When we hurt self, we hurt all. We hurt the whole. And if we don't learn how to communicate with compassion, what is that foundation even for? I'm seeing an image right now, and it's, as I was saying, the foundation will crack and crumble. I was being shown another layer that there already actually is a perfect spiritual foundation that's always there. That this form, this pattern, this paternal blueprint that's within all things. And that foundation is indestructible, right? It's the one that the tabernacle was built upon, the Mishkan, or, all the ancient temples that you hear about and all the sacred texts from all the cultures across time. So this foundation is always there. It's like I'm seeing a vision and it's showing me, don't worry. Don't try to get it perfect. That already exists. So you're just wasting your efforts on trying to make something perfect when the divine pattern of perfection already exists back of all things. So relax, stop trying to be perfect, stop trying to build that foundation. It is there, and we can only build upon it. So it's not that it will crack and crumble. They're showing me, making this message clear. It's not that it will just crack and crumble, but we will just not be able to access it. We won't be able to build anything upon it, because in order to build upon this divine design, we must be in resonance with it. We must be like it. And in order to be in that frequency, requires compassion, requires an embodiment of compassion, which looks like all of the virtues, right? Because what is compassion but the all virtuous light? It encompasses all of the virtues. So in any moment when we're embodying a virtue, we are touching that stream of light. We're activating that eternal, all virtuous light of compassion within. So think of all the virtues, and how can you connect that to your emotional process? For example, when you're going into, like we said, you're going into examine an emotional situation in your life right now. How can you bring the virtues into that? So that looks like self-reflection and asking oneself, how can I be more patient in this situation? How can I bring more humility into this situation? How can I be more honest with myself and with the others involved in this situation? That's how we bring compassion through the virtues to ourselves and to one another within our emotional situation, within our emotional process. So make a little list of the virtues, and there's no perfect list, okay? Just make a list of the virtues, Google virtues, whatever. And then challenge yourself, how can I bring more of the light of these virtues, which is compassion, because they're all the rivers of the ocean of compassion. How can I bring that into my emotional process right now, and into the way that I then deal with these emotions, what I'm going to do with them? Okay. The virtues are also reflected in the 10 Commandments, for example. Excellent book that I've recommended over many years is Emmett Fox's book, The 10 Commandments. And he describes a metaphysical way of looking at the 10 Commandments. Highly recommend. But if you're one who works with the 10 Commandments, or maybe you work with the Eightfold Path, or all these things are reflecting the same original frequencies, primordial energies of creation. But I'll talk about the 10 Commandments because they're widely known. So you could take the 10 Commandments, for example, and you can ask yourself, am I holding up all of these commandments within my emotional process right now? For example, honor thy mother and thy father. It's not just your mother and your father, physically speaking, but it's all that they represent. Am I honoring intuition and logic? Am I, and intuition and logic are also the forces of activity and receptivity. Am I resting enough in the situation? Am I rested enough, right? Because so many of us get into arguments when we're overtired, right? Like a toddler. We're no different as adults. So, am I resting enough in the situation? Could some of my emotional overwhelm be from a lack of rest? Do you see how that is even connected to the commandment of honor thy mother and thy father? Because the mother is the feminine force, is the receptivity, is the surrender. Am I relaxed enough in this situation, or do I need rest? And then the masculine or the father would be, am I taking enough action? Am I feeling inspired enough? Am I maintaining that spark of inspiration to then be able to act when I must in this emotional situation? Okay, so you can use the commandments, you can use the Eightfold Path, you could use the virtues, you can use any of these systems from any of these cultures, and ask yourself, how can I bring that light into my emotional process? Remember, you don't need to get anything perfect. Divine perfection already exists at the core of your being and at the core of all life. So we can step away from this need to create a perfect foundation for the future. And remember that the only thing that matters right now is compassion, kindness toward the self and one another, especially within our emotional situations. And I'm seeing another layer now. It's because it's within all of our situations. We need compassion within all of our situations, but we're being offered this opportunity right now to look directly at our highly emotional situations, because that's where it would be most effective to begin. That makes sense, right? That would be the priority focus, because where the emotions are turned up, the power is turned up, right? Because emotions are energy in motion. What we feel is so real. Our feelings make what we feel real. Our feelings are our electricity. It's the water in our bodies, which we're mostly made of water, right? Are affecting our manifestations, what we're creating in our reality. So of course we want to start with that priority element, the water, the feelings, because that makes up most of who we are. So that is the first focus. And when we can go right into the feelings, we can go right into that vehicle for transformation. If you can remember, for example, a feeling, an uncomfortable feeling you felt as a child, and a lot of you may be familiar with the concept of the not self in human design, which is, in short, a feeling that you feel when you're not living your true design, when you're not being your real self. And as children, we all have a feeling that we experienced again and again, a general feeling that we experienced when we weren't ourselves. Because as children, we're living instinctively, we're living reactively, and we're not responding, we're reacting. We're living more from our subconscious and our primitive self. And so we often are going to experience that not self feeling. Okay, for example, for me, it's frustration. So if I close my eyes and I feel frustrated, I can use that feeling as a vehicle to travel back to different times where I felt that way. And when I arrive there, I can write a new story. This is inner child healing. I have a video of this on my YouTube channel. If anyone's interested, please reach out and private message me. It's about healing across dimensions, across time and space, and how you can go deeper into this work. So you see, feelings carry us like time machines to where we need to go. Feelings are so powerful. So we're being asked right now to go into the fields, go into the field of your feelings. And bring the light of the virtues there. And we have the Hebrew letter of the week as our ally. It's the Hebrew letter Tav, T-A-V. And it's the final letter of the Aleph Bet, the Hebrew alphabet, the very end. And the hieroglyphic symbol for the Tav is an X, which was the original cross. And it's like, think of X marks the spot. That's where the gold is, okay? And what is the real gold? If you met a true alchemist, what would they tell you the real gold is? It's that point of creation. It's the beginning and the never end. It's a point of eternity. And that's what the Tav represents. It's the last, but you'll recall the spiritual saying, the first is implicit in the last, and the last is implicit in the first. Or the beginning is in the end, and the end is the beginning. Or think of Jesus, right? I am the Alpha and the Omega. Or I am the Aleph and the Tav. Might have been what he actually said, right? Keeping in mind that he spoke Hebrew, right? So we're remembering. The Tav is so perfect for this message. Because we're remembering, I'm just going to set it down for a second. Because we're remembering that in the beginning and in the end and the return again, this divine design of perfection exists always. There is an eternal perfection behind all things. And the Tav reminds us of this. And the Tav reminds us as well, there's a secret tarot card associated with the Tav. Again, reach out to me if you want to know more about that, because I have an hour-long class on it. It's the 22 of the major arcana, which you don't find in modern decks. And the Tav represents the ability to be born again and again, which a lot of people, believe that cycle of birth, samsara, is bad. We don't want that. But just like the ego, it's not bad. It's in place for a reason, for a divine reason. So reincarnation, or even just within one lifetime, having the chance, the opportunity to try again, that's divine. That's a gift. And the Tao reminds us, because we are truly eternal beings, we can try again as much as we need to. But we also must remember that there already is a divine design. There already is divine perfection back of all things. We don't need to try so hard. What we do need to work on is bringing the light of compassion into all situations, starting with the watery ones, because water is the main element here within ourselves and the earth. More than 70% water, right? So we must, and this is not to be compromised, we must learn again and again new ways to tune into our emotions, express them, communicate them, do something with them. Because that's our power. Okay, so we're reminded this week, and you can feel free to Google TAV, the Hebrew letter Tav. Remember, it's flipped on the camera. You might want to look at it. You might want to research it. There's a lot of information out there. You might want to make it your phone background or put it on your altar. I also want to point out that it's the 22nd letter, and 22 reduces to a 4, which we see here, 4. Okay, so 4, think form. I also want to point this out, going a little bit deeper for those who are really into the tarot aspect. So you have 3 versions of the number 4 in the tarot and in the major arcanum, and I'll explain how. First, you have 4, the emperor, also known as the sovereign. Then you have the evolution of that 4, which is 13, death, because 13 is reduced to a 4. So it's actually the evolution of the sovereign. Death is just what? A new form. And then you have the hidden 22, which is only in older decks and in the Egyptian deck. And that also reduces to a 4. So it's the next evolution. Okay, so you have the sovereign, you have death, also known as transformation, and then you have the materialist, or an annihilation. And that's the form again and again and again. That's what the 22 represents. Okay? So remember that we have an eternity to keep deepening compassion for ourselves and one another. So don't feel pressured, don't feel pressed to make a perfect life. Divine perfection is already who you are. It already exists all around and within us. So instead, remember what is actually worthy of our time, of our energy, coming back again and again, to deepen compassion, to understand our feelings, our own feelings and each other's feelings, and be able to make something of that. Be able to bring more light into that process. So last week I had some more thoughts after the activation, and I did share them, and I felt they were really important to share, and I will do that from time to time. But I did want to invite you guys into a private group on Facebook called the Archetypal Alliance. It's Walkers of the Royal Path. You could just search Archetypal Alliance. It's a private group where we share about the activation and about the archetypes in general, magic. So if you join, I would love to hear what you got from this activation, because there are so many perspectives and we can always add more, and I will do the same. I will share as more comes up for me, because it always does. Because as I'm doing the activation, I can't so much focus on my own personal reflections in my life. In fact, sometimes I have to push that out in order to be present for this information to come through. So later I tend to process it, as many of you do. And I would love to share more in this private group, the Archetypal Alliance. Thank you guys so much for doing this activation with me, with all of us today, tonight, wherever you are. We also have another private group called Shabbat Crew on Facebook, Shabbat, Shabbat Crew. And every Friday night for Shabbat, I give a personal interpretation of the current Torah story, which is usually directly related to the tarot reading of the week. So that's pretty cool. Feel free to join us there. I do post a link after every activation for donations if anyone wants to give back for this free offering that I've been doing for years now, every single week. I'm so grateful to those of you who have been donating and giving back. It's really awesome. It's super helpful for me. Some of you have been donating every single week and giving amazing feedback each time, and that means everything to me. So thank you. You know who you are. So the links are on my wall. I'll be posting them again after this video. And for those of you who've been ordering my books, thank you. Royal Path 1 and 2 is still available. Feel free to private message me if you want a copy for yourself, if you want to learn more about how to read tarot, whether it's the major arcana or the minor arcana, let me know. Feel free to ask any questions. And I am available for one-on-one readings at this time, which is super exciting because I've only been able to do recorded readings, which are still available at a little bit of a discounted price, recorded readings. But I am now available for live one-on-one again, and I use every platform out there, WhatsApp, Signal, Skype, Zoom, you name it. So feel free to reach out. I also have one more thing to share. I've been using LifeWave patches. Who here knows about them? I want to know your experience with them. I want to know your story. How did you find LifeWave? How is it working for you? Do you feel it's effective? I'm trying them on myself first. So far, really amazing, really cool. I'm loving it. I'm also experimenting with them on family members who have actually chronic pain. I know lots of people who are healing from cancer, healing from the chemo. Those who have chosen to do the chemo are now healing from that. I have lots of friends with arthritis, all kinds of things. So I'm really excited to see where LifeWave goes. I do have a lot of friends and neighbors in Sedona who use them, and the information out there is just fascinating. I'm really into science, and I watched a fair amount of these videos, and I'm pretty blown away. And like I said, so far I'm loving the patches. So I'm just curious if any of you have tried them. It's called LifeWave. Let me know. Private message me. I would love to hear about your experience. All right, you guys, thank you so much for being present for this activation. I'll see you in our private group. And I'll also see you next week for the first quarter activation. Aloha.